Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening for the third episode of Ukrainian. I appreciate everybody who's been watching and listening so far in an effort to try to not ramble for 40 minutes. I know I said that last time, but this time I mean it for real because I want to do some legal analysis, and there is nothing on this earth that can make anything legal interesting ever. So brevity is the only thing I can do to help with this. But I think it's an important issue to look at. I know everybody's kind of focused on HIMARS and grain right now, and that's incredibly important stuff. But I also don't want to lose sight of what we can do and what should we do with I think the $284 billion of assets belonging to the Russian Central Bank that are frozen in our allied countries, everyone except China. And again, China, wish we could be friends too. But before I do that, I wanted to just, because I know that yesterday it was kind of a long one, I wanted for everyone who's an English speaker out there to help explain the difference between Ukrainian and Russian, the two languages, and how they are related. I want to play the following. So if you are a native English speaker, listen to this.
Oh jee, ik wou dat ik Nederlands sprak. Maar vind ik mijn houten klompen, mijn tulpen en mijn molens?
Okay, did that mean anything to anyone? Did anyone understand? Okay, let's say that's Russian, right? Here is English, aka Ukrainian.
Oh dear, I wish I spoke Dutch. However, will I find my wooden clogs, my tulips, and my windmills?
Okay, so again, that's just to make the point so that because I know that there's still, for reasons I don't understand, there is misunderstanding, especially here in America, about Ukrainian being a dialect of Russian or an accent. No, Dutch and English. So the other thing is that I think it's a false predicate to say that sovereignty is predicated on having a distinct language. And again, Americans, I can't point that one out enough to all of us. Didn't matter for our national sovereignty, right? So today I want to focus very much exclusively on the money and what we could do legally, what might be done illegally, what we have done in the past, and making it as painless as possible, because statutes get involved, reading them, interpreting them, oh my goodness, it's like law school all over again, only worse, because this is real and it's affecting real people. Okay, so here's my whiteboard. I don't know if everybody can see it. Let me see, can I make it better than that? Oh dear, okay, yeah. Okay, so as of June 2021, the CIA said that Putin had managed to save up, close to $600 billion. No, he wasn't getting ready to invade Ukraine. No. He invades Ukraine and moves immediately $300 billion to foreign banks. That same day, $284 billion are frozen. And here's the breakdown. So France is the big winner. Then we have Japan, Germany. The U.S. is the tail wagging the dog here, folks. It's $38 billion. UK only 26, Austria 17, Canada 16 billion. So I know that I've been reading a lot about kind of the U.S. hemming and hawing and saying, oh, we can't, it's frozen. We can't vest it. We can't liquidate it. We can't use it. And I know that again, the international community and international law has what it says about kind of this issue. There are concerns about having stability in the global market, in the global economy, in the global marketplace, making sure that foreign sovereigns feel comfortable investing their money in the U.S. and all these other countries. I guess I say to that, do we want terrorists who are committing genocide? Do we want to be keeping their money safe? Is that what we'd like to say with our respect for the Russian Federation as a sovereign? we're concerned about that. I guess, the point is that if we've frozen the assets, we've managed to make sure they're not being used to continue to commit this invasion, occupation, and genocide / war, and that at the end of the war, they can be returned. And again, I'm not talking about private individuals. I'm not talking about Russian corporations. All of those assets, I'm not even addressing at this point. I'm talking about only the Russian central bank's kind of foreign currency reserves, which, like I said, are about 284 billion right now. And the reason I think it would be, there's concern, all this concern about, it's gonna push Putin's buttons and he's gonna be upset. Angela Merkel, she said it best. He's a big wuss, and I think we need to start pushing buttons. And if we're not willing to do so, at this point, militarily, apart from providing this limited number of HIMARS weapon systems to Ukraine, I think they said they'd go after Alaska if we liquidated their assets. Maybe we can call their bluff, do something. So to talk about this, a lot of legal scholars love to start with IEEPA, which is the piece of legislation that is it's what's been around in the United States since the 70s. And it basically it stands for the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and people like to make a big deal of the point that it specifically provided for authority to essentially confiscate and freeze assets, but not to vest them or liquidate them. And given the precision of the language from Congress, which again, I don't know about this Congress, but I guess in the 70s they were careful with what they were writing. And so they look to that kind of historical context and say, this is what the statutory intent is, so clearly there's no vesting. Well, obviously in 2001, and I guess not obviously to everyone, so right, 2001, 9/11 happens, and George W. Bush requests an amendment, and we get the PATRIOT ACT, and that language gets changed, and the presidential authorities are enhanced here. So I would love to quickly take a look, if possible, at some of these statutory language. Okay, and I don't really know how to use YouTube, obviously. So my son is trying to help me. It's a lost cause right now, but here, let me see if I could do this. Okay, here we go. Kind of, no, there we go. Okay, so here's the first part, okay, where it says that authority granted to the president in the next section of this title can be exercised to deal with any unusual and extraordinary threat which has its source in whole or substantial part outside of the United States to the national security, foreign policy, or economy of the United States, if the president declares a national emergency with respect to such threat. Okay, there are numerous examples where that has happened, and again, this is IEPA, so this is kind of what allows you to just freeze assets. So we've done this with Venezuela, we've done this with Iran, we've done this with Iraq. Iraq, actually, in 2003, there's President W again. He went and he said, I'm going to liquidate all the assets of the Iraqi central bank and use it to help Iraqi people with humanitarian efforts and rebuilding. So we've done this before. Again, I get it. Rules, I guess our foreign policy is different depending on whether or not you are a nuclear power. You can be a giant bully and you can commit genocide as long as you have nuclear weapons. We're not going to do shit about it, apparently. So here we go. Here is 1702. Okay, and the real part of this that matters is section C, because that's kind of where things changed a little bit. So I made this bigger, and I'm going to try to make it so it can see it. Okay. So when the United States is engaged in armed hostilities or has been attacked, blah, 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 then the president can confiscate any property subject to the jurisdiction of the United States of blah, 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 blah. The right, title, and interest in any property so confiscated shall vest when, as, and upon terms directed by the president in such agency or person as the president may designate. So that's kind of the big change there. Now we can actually vest the frozen assets. And again, it's engaged in armed hostilities. I think it's laughable to say that we are not currently engaged in armed hostilities. Who is this nice person, this nice Russian lady who said, Ukraine with American weapons is bombing a peaceful city like a genuine terrorist. That's the deputy head of the Russian-installed government in the Kherson region. So the Russians are calling us terrorists. They are saying that, obviously, that the weapons are being supplied by us. So I think it's I mean, like people say that, it takes a lot. You'd have to be stretching these laws around to make them fit the purpose. I think it strains credulity to say that we're not engaged in armed hostilities. And then it says, of any foreign organization or foreign country that the president determines has planned, authorized, aided, or engaged in such hostilities or attacks against the United States. And again, it's hostilities or attacks. And again, in the boring world of the law, an or matters, right? So it doesn't have to be an attack. It's a hostility or, right? So it's that matters. So so just this, my plain reading of kind of this, it absolutely would allow President Biden, without an act of Congress, without new legislation, without an amendment. Right now, we are engaged in armed hostilities, and Russia is engaging in armed hostilities against us, right? So that's kind of IEPA and the PATRIOT Act. Now, Congress, thankfully, decided also that it was going to not stop there, and in April 28th, actually, the House passed H.R. 6930, which is the Asset Seizure for Ukraine Reconstruction Act. It's with the Senate now. Hopefully the Senate is going to do the right thing, but basically it says within all the bounds of the Constitution, the president should be liquidating the central bank's assets and using them for the benefit of Ukraine. And I couldn't agree more. Not only do I think it is it's playing this game that Vladimir Putin seems to think is he doesn't care about Russian lives, doesn't care about Ukrainian lives. The meeting tomorrow, I think, is in the Netherlands about the war crimes. He doesn't care. We know he cares about money. We know he cares about his money. We know he cares about his legacy, and I think that taking these steps is well within our it's already I think it's statutorily. I think there's an argument that it could be applied, and then also, I looked at what are the damages, what are the consequences if we break our own law, right? The penalty is the greater of $250,000 or twice the amount of money that was frozen. So it'd be 2 times $38 billion, and that's if you could find a court. And again, look at our Supreme Court. If you could find a court that's going to find that, good luck. I'd like to try a case at that court. I recognize that people like to make this extra complicated by saying, this really would call into question, sovereign immunity and just international security for the global economy and the markets, and the U.S. is an economic center for the world, and blah blah blah. Again, I don't think we had any issues with Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Venezuela. Like I said, apparently you can do pretty atrocious things and violate the sovereignty of another country, and then to kill them to the last one, right? To the last Ukrainian, you can kill all of us, and the U.S. is going to make sure that Russia can get its money back. It makes no sense to me. So with that, I am going to just say Slava Ukraini, and thank you to everyone in Ukraine who is fighting, who is taking care of each other, who is working to get the grain to the people who need it, who are going to suffer through these horrible discussions about these war crimes that have been committed, who have to continue to put up with the fake propaganda, hopefully trying to do something about it here in the U.S. So good night.